The city was alive with flashing lights, tall towers, and the endless rush of people, but for 6-year-old Emma, the world shrank into the warmth of her father's hand. They had just come out of a fancy restaurant where the single dad, Daniel, one of the city's most powerful CEOs, had taken her after a long week of work. Emma clutched her little lunchbox, a habit she had carried since kindergarten. She liked saving half her meal to enjoy later. But that evening, something happened that would change not just their night, but the course of their lives. As they walked past the corner of the street, Emma stopped suddenly. Her big innocent eyes had landed on a young woman sitting on the pavement with a small, tattered blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Beside her lay an empty food container, her face pale and lips trembling from the evening chill. People walked by without looking, as if she didn't exist. Emma tugged at her father's sleeve. "Daddy," she whispered softly, her voice breaking his thoughts, "she looks hungry. Can I share my food with her?" Daniel froze. He wasn't used to moments like this. His world was filled with board meetings, billion-dollar contracts, and people who only pretended to care. But now, his daughter's innocent voice pierced through that hardened shell. He glanced at the girl on the street, then back at his daughter. For a man who had everything, he realized he had never truly looked at the people he passed every day. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" he asked gently. Emma nodded eagerly, her small hands already opening her lunchbox. Without waiting for permission, she walked up to the stranger and knelt down. "Here, it's my favorite," she said shyly, offering her food. The young woman looked up, her eyes filling with tears. She hesitated, as if she wasn't worthy of the child's kindness. But then, hunger and gratitude overcame her pride, and she accepted it with shaking hands. Thank you so much," the woman whispered, her voice weak but sincere. Daniel's throat tightened. For the first time in years, he felt his heart stir in ways money could never buy. He crouched beside his daughter and looked at the young woman. She couldn't have been older than 23, and though she tried to hide it, her dignity was still intact despite her situation. That night, instead of walking away, Daniel asked her name. "Sophie," she said quietly. He asked where she lived, but her silence was answer enough. She had nowhere. A storm of emotions raged inside him. He was a man who had built skyscrapers, yet here was a girl who had nothing, not even a roof over her head. Over the next few days, Daniel found himself unable to forget Sophie. Emma wouldn't stop asking either. "Daddy, is she okay? Did she eat again? Can we help her?" The question stung, because he had no easy answers. But Emma's persistence slowly broke through the walls around his heart. Finally, he made a decision. Daniel tracked Sophie down again. She was still in the same place, weaker than before. He offered her a meal and a chance to work at his company, not as charity, but as a genuine opportunity. At first, she refused. "I don't want pity," she said firmly. Daniel respected her strength but explained, "It's not pity. My daughter reminded me that everyone deserves a chance. Take this job, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to start again." Reluctantly, Sophie agreed. Her journey wasn't easy. The first weeks were full of struggle catching up on skills, adjusting to the corporate world, and facing whispers from others who didn't believe she belonged. There were nights she cried alone, wanting to give up. But every time she saw Emma's bright smile, she found the courage to keep going. Emma would often run into her office with little drawings saying, "You can do it, Sophie." And those words carried her through the hardest days. Daniel, meanwhile, faced his own challenges. Some board members questioned his decision, accusing him of mixing personal feelings with business. But Daniel stood firm. Success isn't just measured by profit. It's measured by the lives we lived along the way, he declared in a meeting, silencing his critics. Months passed, and Sophie transformed. From a fragile young woman on the streets, she grew into a confident professional, proving herself with hard work and talent. She became a valuable part of the company, and more importantly, she became part of Daniel and Emma's lives. One evening, after work, Emma once again tugged at her father's sleeve. This time, she whispered something that made Daniel's heart skip a beat. "Daddy, can Sophie be part of our family? She already feels like mommy." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. He looked at Sophie, who stood there stunned, her hands covering her mouth. In that moment, he realized that fate had given them something far greater than he could have ever planned. The story of a little girl's compassion had brought three broken lives together, one searching for purpose, one for love, and one simply hoping for a chance. And so, Daniel took Sophie's hand and whispered, "Emma is right. You've already become part of us. Let us not fight what's meant to be." By the end of that year, Sophie was no longer the girl on the streets. She was family. Emma's small act of kindness had not only fed a hungry stranger but had changed all their lives forever. The message was simple but powerful: sometimes, the smallest hands show us the biggest truths. And sometimes, it only takes one act of compassion to turn strangers into family.